A lot of these doctors say, it's terrible, the hours are awful. They never tell us how much they actually earn. They only tell us how much they get paid per hour. They never mention the waste that the NHS is involved in. They never mention how the NHS could spend its money better. They always just say they want more money. But then they say it's not about the money. What do you make of it?
Gosh, it's a really complex discussion, but it is partly about the money and partly about just the culture of the NHS altogether. So my position on this is that junior doctors are woefully underpaid at the early levels. The work is extraordinarily hard, really long hours, and the moral injury associated with being a junior doctor will follow you for the rest of your life. It is an extraordinarily difficult job for essentially the sort of pay that you would get in many other areas. So the question that springs to mind is, well, why be a junior doctor when you can do other things? The obvious answer to that is because you don't stay a junior or training doctor forever. You grow into a consultant or a general practitioner where you do earn a reasonable sum of money and you have a reasonable control over your life. The challenge beyond this, though, is not just about the pay. It really is about the culture of working in the NHS, because it's a terrible place to work. It never used to be, but it has become a terrible place where patients are being treated far less well than they used to do in the past. And I think that's what our junior training doctors are seeing currently. They're saying, well, we need doctors to stay. We need them to work harder. We need them to do better for patients. And quite frankly, we can't at the moment on the money that's spent in the system. And junior doctors don't have say over where that money goes. They only have say over what goes into their back pocket through negotiation. So they can't account for the rest of the waste.
Well, they can't account for the rest of the waste, but they can mention the fact that there is waste in other areas, which they never do. And when they say it's a terrible job that they have to do, they knew that it was a terrible job when they took it on. Some of these kids on the picket line saying, since 2008, we've lost 25% of our real income. Well, in 2008, most of them were still at school. So why are they going into a job which they knew was not that well paid in the hopes that they could go on strike and make it better paid?
That's a reasonable point, Mike. But when you go into medical school, you're usually 18 years of age and you're bright, full of energy, and you think you can change the world. 5 or 6 years later, you've matured and understood a little bit more about it, and you realize that it's not what you were sold. So on the one hand, we've got these doctors who go in keen to make the best of a situation. And on the other hand, we've got the stark reality of the world where you can't continue to throw money at the problem. So I think there is a difference between aspiration and reality that some of these junior training doctors are starting to learn and understand. And they do mention the waste, to be fair. I think they talk about the waste all the time, and that's part of the terms and conditions that they're talking about at the moment. It's just that pay has reached the headlines because, that's the interesting stuff to talk about. But the NHS is ridiculously wasteful. There are loads of ways to find some of this money that will increase the rate of pay for junior training doctors.
Yeah, I think that's right. Martin, let me finish up with you. I mean, clearly a lot of these people are very entitled. Maybe that's why they don't get paid too much when they're 18, because they're not worth much. They don't really know anything, and they learn as they go. And at the end of the day, surely either you have a vocation to be a medical practitioner or you don't. And if you don't like the money, go and do something else.
Yes, I think that's true. I mean, when my brother was training to be a doctor, my mother used to say, of course, my son's a doctor, and then point at me and say, not him. I was going in commerce, which was really not good at all. I was not going to be a doctor. Or even possibly later a professor, even greater. However, I mean, there is a simple solution. I agree with much of what my colleague on this panel has said. In fact, the best way to deal with this, actually, if I was still a chairman of NHS Trust, I tell you what I would want to do to sort it. I'd say, look, let's sort it locally. Let's talk to our staff. Let's sort out the issues. Junior doctors are on rotation very often in their early year. They're not made to feel part of the organisation they work in. They don't feel as valued as they should do, and I absolutely accept that. However, if these issues were sorted locally, I would have said to my trust, look, I tell you what, let's go a long way to helping our junior doctors. Let's pay them some more. But, and here's the but, we need to save money from other places in order to do that. We talk about waste, yes, there's lots of waste. Do we need all these diversity czars and all the rest in our trusts? No, we don't. That's another cultural issue. If you are welcoming to people irrespective of what their skin color or sexual orientation is, that's part of your culture. It doesn't need somebody to be going around the trust preaching at people. So actually, I think is a way. The BMA would fight this tooth and nail. They love the percentage-based negotiation nationally. It gives them their power. And I think it's time through many, many routes where that power should be actually diminished, and we should be given more freedom at local levels to sort out these sorts of issues.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Martin, thanks very much indeed.